Okay,
Thank you
so
so much.
like the gear on your wall.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ah,
Likewise.
nice.
Yeah. Before, can I just say I love you so much?
Oh, honey, thank you. Yeah, thank you for saying you absolutely can anytime, anywhere.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's
I
great.
think that's the beauty of when we step into this work. The connection is for some of us strikingly weird at first, but we do get used to it, don't we?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So much. Um, yeah. So I heard about you first in 2007. I was working with a teacher, and he told me to read your book, Loving What Is, and it was amazing. And then I felt like it changed my life, and then I completely forgot of everything I'd learned for
Mhm.
like 5 years or something. And then I came back to it, and I've seen you in person a couple times. I saw you in September at Esalen.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you so much for being here.
So you were
Also,
sitting in that room with me.
I was, and you know what? You actually,
Isn't that fun?
it was super fun. And at the end, someone was asking you why you did this, why you came here, and what you said was, "I came here for her," and you pointed to my wife.
Yeah.
So that was really sweet because there's a story
Yeah.
of sexual abuse and how this woman who that was not my wife who talked about how the moment right before the abuse happened was worse than the abuse itself,
Yes.
and that and then Nomi, my wife, stood up and said that that was true for her as well during her upbringing,
Oh, it's
and that
beautiful.
yeah, and yeah, and she's really taken that with her since then. So
I'm happy
yes,
to hear that.
yeah.
I love the Esalen thing. It's so laid back, and people are, I don't know, they're just relax it all and let it happen. I
Hmm.
really appreciate that.
Yeah. So I wanted to. So the reason I particularly wanted to connect with you here is I am so fascinated with our society, our the world that we've created for ourselves, which is you know. I talked to Chris Atwood. I'm sure you know. I believe you know
Uh-huh.
Chris. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
he's a friend and a customer as well. And he was like, usually my question is like, what would you change in the world if you were, queen for a day? And he was like, yeah, you got to come up with a better question because Katie's just going to say it's already perfect.
So, what would I change if I were queen for a day? I am and nothing.
Yeah, that's what I figured. That's what I figured.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's what would I change? You know, if I were queen for a day, in other words, if I could have anything and make that possible, um, um, okay, so I'm back to where I started. I guess I have that. Everything I could wish for, I already have. It's and that's quite a journey for me finding something
mhm.
that I don't already have. Like where my mind went with that, Calvin, is the age and energy, and really it's the energy, not the age, but they are synonymous in the world. But the age and energy to be sure that to do all that I can to make sure that this work exists in the world at no charge.
Mhm.
That everyone knows that it exists. Not that they should or shouldn't use it or
Mhm.
understand it,
Mhm.
but I think people have a right to know these that this simple way exists.
Mhm.
This simple way of just contacting one's own better nature.
Right. And it is available for free, right? I mean, that's
Yes,
exactly it.
always free on the web.com.
Yeah.
And how to do it, everything of value is there at no charge.
Yeah. I watched the other night. There's a video that you have up there about like Trump, this woman
Mm-hmm.
who's like, I'm afraid of Trump, and I love the moment. at the end where she tears up her papers and she's like, "Oh my God, this is all bullshit." The
Yeah.
whole victim story. What do you make of like that? That is something that I definitely relate to, and I see a lot out in the world of people who feel like they're victims of all kinds of things. What do you make of that?
That's the hard way. And the easy way is to think out of one's most educated self and go to the polls and vote not against an enemy, but for what you believe in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not complicated. You're just thinking for yourself. You have um, educated yourself and voted the polls, not opposing, but for.
So do you find that so the way I look at it is like we can try to change politics and new rules and new institutions or laws or whatever, but that's not really what it's about. Like the it's
No.
about what's going on inside each and
Yes,
every one
because
of us.
we take our mindsets into that world
Exactly.
that you just described. So nothing changes.
Exactly. So if something were to change, that would be through, I mean, through exactly the kind of work that you're doing, which is,
Yes, this has to change first, you know, and what I hear you asking about it is what can we do to support sanity to rule this
yes,
planet?
yes.
And so the only way I know to do that is myself make sure that I don't contribute to that insanity, and that I'm clear enough to pass something more valuable on. So you see, it always takes it back to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to get any better than the way you see it and believe it. And once you're awake to a kinder way, which is what inquiry gives us access to, that is the change.
Mm-hmm.
So as I experience in Calvin, it's the community is worldwide in so many different languages now. People that are questioning what they believe, and that we, rather than in a small state or a large state, it is it's being distributed beyond us
Mm-hmm.
in all of the perfect places and at the perfect level. And it's like if you take everyone in the world and you take one mind and you see how similar our thinking is. I want, I need, they shouldn't. So you take that mindset that we all hold, and as people question it, it loosens its grip on reality. And so that entire community of the world in whatever language ceases to be a barrier, and we have access to kinder nature as each of us evolves and brings the other in.
Mm-hmm.
That way we all have equal access to sanity, and there is a way. And that is how this community of the world, when we look at the similar mindsets, you might see it as just one head, as a simple, just one head, one mind. So when I work with mine, you work with yours, it wakes the entire body up. And the effect is that profound. It doesn't seem that way to us. But you're a kinder husband. That shifts your wife's world. She's a kinder human being. You both become wiser as far as knowing yourself. And that affects, look at the people you affect. Look at that. And that's just one person, two person. And you throw me in the mix and throw James in the mix. And it's the one mind is waking up. Mm-hmm. To itself.
Yeah. And you, I mean, you have a tremendous gift for like breaking kind of through to people, or how would you describe it? Like when you have these conversations, I find myself often in situations where I talk to someone and there's a lot of victim mentality going on, and I get hooked
Hmm.
in that because
Yeah.
I have that in me, or I resonate with the villain. Yes, I'm probably wrong, or something like that, right?
Hmm.
Either way, I'm always fascinated with just how incredibly clear you seem to be in those situations.
Well, I have more time in this inquiry than anyone else, and so as I see it, that's the only difference.
Yeah. Is there, are
And
there, yeah?
and I see everyone's mind as enlightened. So my work is easy. I just question and witness them accessing what I already understand that they know. So in the presence of that sameness, then it's powerful.
Hmm.
And that me is not personal. It's any of us that are facilitating someone else. And it's also very powerful that others would facilitate, um, like if at the school for the work, for example, I might be the first client, and I would ask, who of you have never experienced facilitating the work? Would you, that are brand new to the work, would you raise your hands? And I'd pick the greenest looking one out there, and and uh, and and then I'll take like a worksheet and allow and invite them to question me, just staying with that little yellow card, those 4 questions and turnarounds. And so I am responding out of what I experience as they ask the question. And so it it's it's this transparent mind, and then the entire school understand by example that it's just that simple, and the depth is there, and the stillness is there, and the simplicity of what we're about to do for 9 days is there, like at S1. S1's a little wilder, but I don't know. It's a little of this and a little of that wherever we are. But but yeah, it's no teacher, always the student.
Yeah. So one of the things, like, so in terms of all the mind things that, like, the want, the should, is there any of those that that you kind of see as underpinning or like the key to unlock for people to free themselves?
No, it's when I put the worksheet together, in just the stillness of witnessing, I could see it was always I want, I need, they should, I shouldn't, they don't, I don't ever want to, they are, I am. So it was limited to just about those 6 questions on the worksheet. I don't ever want to.
Mm.
And so the key of knowing when to do the work other than the emotions is it goes a little past the the beginning of emotions into that victimhood that you're pointing to. It's that it's not fair, that that victim
Uh-huh.
thing. And oh boy, that's a worksheet. It's just perfect fodder for the for a worksheet. It's just dictating what to put on the worksheet. That victimhood.
Yeah, yeah, it's really, um, yeah. I had an interesting experience yesterday. I happened to be at an event with the founder of the Me Too movement, and I got a chance to actually sit down and talk to her, and it was very. Um, what I got was something that was very closed-minded. That was the
Yes,
experience I got, and
yes,
it made me very sad.
yeah.
For
I experienced her not long ago as well.
oh, you did.
And yeah, she spoke at at Wisdom 2.0.
Oh yeah.
And um,
Yeah.
anything that blames or leaves on one not taking responsibility for themselves. I don't care I don't care if I've been gang raped. I've got to look at my part.
Yes.
And I can see, let's say that I was completely and totally innocent. But what I was thinking and believing in the situation, I have to take responsibility for if I'm ever going to find resolution. And locking all of them up for life is not going to give me that.
Yeah. That's what I found as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm getting emotional now, hearing you say that. There's a story in, I think it's Loving What Is, where you talk to someone who was abused by her stepdad, and that moment in the car, I read it to my audience a couple of days ago, that moment in the car where he just leaves and closes the door without saying goodbye, and she doesn't get that piece. Just when I read that the first time, I was just...
It's heart-wrenching.
Yeah,
It's a horrible trap. The horrible thing, the worst thing, is being left in the car with what you're thinking and believing.
Yeah.
Because the actual gift of it being over can never, we're not even aware of it because we're stuck here with this. So it goes on and on and on, and the stepfather walks, and who is torturing me at this moment?
You're so right. Yeah.
So there is a way out.
Yeah.
And I love that people know that.
Yeah. Yes. I was like, what's so amazing is like I've heard like I think pretty much all your audios, and sometimes I'll just put them on and not really pay attention, but just listening to your voice as a sort of meditation is amazing. But you're tremendous at really holding that space, or like the way that you're being that just allows people to find their answers. There's a like rare occasion where someone's just like they're not getting it, and it's just it has to end there. But it's very rare that I mean, I'll probably edit it a little bit what stories are picked out for the audios, but even like seeing you in person, right? That ability I really admire.
It's not new territory for me because this is a worked mind, and so I can always see clearly that other person, even though they cannot see themselves clearly yet.
Right.
But I understand it's there, or the problem wouldn't exist. In other words, I understand the solution is there, or the problem, they wouldn't have a problem. I'm not guessing, and that's what you're picking up on. I know they know. And Calvin, that is the beautiful thing about projection. If I'm stuck in my head, then let's see, how do I say that? If I perceive you as an enemy or the cause of my suffering, then when I work that through on a worksheet, then I see you as the person that brought me that freedom. So I'm not only connected to you, I've got this sense of gratitude, and it's like, oh my goodness, you gave me, you're giving me my life, Mr. Enemy.
Yes.
It's you begin to see people as an odd word, but saints. Just everyone here, and that's truer than anything else. The whole world, I'd like to say there's only one person that needs the work, and that's me, and I'm the only unenlightened person in this world. And so the world is here waking me up to to, this beautiful existence.
I like that. Yeah, yeah. Another pattern I see out there is like, I don't know what it is exactly. It's like it feels like almost a guilt or shame or unworthiness for existing. Like I see, like some of the things that people talk about with the environment, where it's like we need to have like no impact on the environment whatsoever, because, which is exactly how I used to feel inside. I felt so unworthy that if I breathed the air, I was stealing it from someone who was more
Yeah.
unworthy, and it kind of feels like
Yeah.
that. Or like with the when the Parkland shooting happened and these kids started speaking up, and I heard people say, "Well, only kids should get a vote. People over 18 should not be allowed to vote." I'm like, "Whoa, that's feels like a little bit
That's
of
radical.
yeah."
Yeah.
Well, and like that's like, well, we as
People
adults
looking
are
for
not,
solutions.
yeah, and abdicating responsibility, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you make of that whole that lack of like unworthiness or like at that level?
The it's if we see I don't know if this is relevant. Maybe I misunderstand um, what you're asking for, but if I see that someone needs something more than I do,
Mm-hmm.
first I look at why wouldn't I give it,
Mm-hmm.
and then I see all the reasons why I wouldn't. Maybe they're arrogant, maybe they're self-centered. I just check it out. But if I see someone like starving to death, so just get an image in your head of what you've seen on television of like what comes to my mind are the images of one maybe 9-month old child in Syria where they are hitting its back and all the 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 poison from the gas is he's vomiting it up and his little eyes, you can see his face and eyes, and you can see the panic and the expertise and the quality of the care he's getting under such emergency in the emergency moment, and so when I look at that child, my heart doesn't go out to that child
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know. And this is not something I'm thinking rationally because I always wonder where is my compassion,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't always wonder that. I'm so in touch with it, but I'm looking at that, and I don't know as I look at that child, and you can see that child in your mind's eye. Look at that child, and can you know what that child is thinking and believing? Let's say it's a 3-year-old child or a 5-year-old child. Can you know, or the infant? Can you, as you look straight into that baby's eyes, that child's eyes, can you know what they're thinking? No,
I can't. I can project a
you
ton of
can.
stuff onto them, but I can't know. Yeah.
And that's where you become unworthy. What are you doing with your money and here in the United States, all safe and sound, and your wife and your beautiful home, or whatever it is? What are you doing? Why aren't you doing good? Why aren't you the ta 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 ta? So this unworthiness, this guilt of
Mm-hmm.
I'm why do I have the right to breathe this air? Why
Right.
do I have
Exactly.
the right to live in this safe space?
Yeah.
And I'm guilty, guilty, guilty. I'm not worthy of it.
Mm-hmm.
But that falls into that, just looking at that child, for example, and believing what you are and experiencing what happens when you believe your thoughts onto that image sitting here right now or on television, or if you're one of the doctors or support team working on that child. Let's say you're working on that child, you're one of the ones trying to bring him back,
Mm-hmm.
or to health. Then what are you thinking and believing that would keep you from from being even clearer, and and the privilege of being connected to a child that may be on their way out and not missing one moment of that child's life and being connected.
Yeah.
And then if the baby dies, you don't lose connection.
Right.
You're no more, no less connected than you were originally.
That's such a radical thing in the world that we live in, and like we have to look at that child and feel compassion and donate money or do something, or like, and if you look at that child and you're like, yeah, that, but you're not like feeling that urge to that, then it's like, oh shit, is something wrong with me, and I'm
Yeah,
not compassionate enough, and I'm
yeah,
probably selfish,
and I don't deserve to live here in this non-war zone.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's all what we're thinking and believing onto a situation that that feeds this thing of I'm unworthy.
Right. I think this is exactly why I love you so
And
much as a teacher.
and you know, Calvin,
Yeah.
just to before it leaves me, it's so important that you are the baby that's suffering, and what are you vomiting? And when you're a victim, you know, that's it. So we're in our cozy homes and we see that and we imagine what he's feeling and believing. And I can say in my life, am I, there is one miserable human being in the world, but that would be me when I'm believing onto anyone. It's disrespectful. I know what they're thinking. I know what they're feeling. I know what's going on.
That's another thing, right? Like, I feel like, especially when you end up discussing politics with people, what I always want to end up is just asking him, do you really know that that's true, right?
Yeah.
Like people on the right are this, or Trump is this or that, or the people on the left or whatever.
You
Do
know,
you really know what's going on? Like,
yeah, and a short version are you sure?
mm-hmm.
You know, it's the like the equivalent of the first two questions.
Yeah,
Are you sure? That's fascinating, and are you sure? And it's kind of it's your mind is open, so it allows their mind to be more open.
Yeah. I think if we could accomplish that in politics, like just having people ask themselves that question when they see stuff, that we would be in a completely different place. I find it fascinating too. There's so many people who are quote unquote spiritual, and who don't get this stuff right. That's why I think you're the most important spiritual teacher out there.
It's just to get in the dirt, stay in the dirt. You know, the ground floor. Never leave the ground floor. This is where hell is. This is where hell begins. And it's we can take care of that.
And it's where heaven begins?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Hell is it's just a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
And to question what we're believing that would give us hell is to enter heaven immediately, to use those odd polarities of differences. Yeah.
So those were. Well, I guess the other thing is this whole. What I'm starting to realize as I dive into this more, I have a software company and I'm a software engineer. That's kind of my background, but I've had this interest in life in general for years, and more recently into politics. And the more I study these things, the more I'm like, all the things I've been told are like wrong. They're just not true. I'm finding more and more of that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's refreshing too, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it's really exciting. And I love that. Like it was very paramount.
Well, it puts you it puts you in it takes you to the front of the class. You know, it's because the ideas coming out of you, you're past that, so you're into something else where they're trying to find a solution for what you've already resolved within you.
Right.
So, it's a beautiful space to
Yeah.
have your training and mind, and we're all in the right place to make a major difference.
So what I'm starting to realize also is like that this approach to thinking clearly is not something that most people do or tend to do naturally. Like there is a tendency, I think, as I understand it, like the way our minds work is there's a tendency to kind of dogmatic religious thinking in terms of we just take whatever is told and we don't question it, we don't ask
Hmm.
questions. Is that
Hmm.
something that you see?
Oh yes, absolutely, and I'm a survivor of that.
Yeah, I think we
Yeah,
all are,
it's
of course. Yeah.
yeah,
And what
yeah.
is it? What is the key? What do you see is like what makes people start to break out of that?
Um, you know, the word that comes to mind is just to notice. Is that true or not?
Hmm.
Mm. And our emotions allow us to be aware that we have to be thinking something that's basically not true to us. It's foreign to our nature, to our kindest nature, to feel that way. And so we look at the cause of that, which is what we were thinking and believing just prior to the emotion, and that is actually the cause of emotion. And what we could say, and which it is, but I could say more about that. But so we track back to what we were thinking and believing, and thank the emotion, for pointing us to it. And then we question what we're thinking and believing, and we are wiser human beings. We believe less and the ego has less influence over us.
Yeah.
And we can see that the ego is it's completely an illusion. Every time we question what the ego says, it 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 dies away.
Right.
Yeah, and in fact, if anything can dance, it's really dancing. This it's finding a mind at home with itself, so it doesn't have to be so apparently cruel.
Yes. I love how we got the title.
Yeah, yeah. I just love that people understand that the ego, once it's questioned, can rest. It's just looking for a home.
Right. What makes people come to your finally come to your work? Is that pain, suffering? Someone mentions it.
I think word of mouth,
Hmm.
and I think if where I come from, if if I heard that there was a place I could go to end my suffering, I would be open to it.
Yeah. I gave my dad a copy of your book, Loving What Is, and first he managed to completely to misplace it somewhere, so I
Yeah.
gave him another copy. And then his comment was, "Oh, people have a lot of problems, don't they?" I'm like, okay,
Yeah, yeah,
it's
and
true.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
People have a, yeah, Dad, they do, and I'm happy to see that there is a solution for that. Did you notice? And but I'm more prone to how you are. Just yeah, Dad. Just go on, because you never know how it's going to hit him the next morning in the shower.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the thing that you do with like language. There was another dialogue that I just read where when you role play people, that's fantastic. That's the
Yeah.
best, right? And then there was like this couple, and he doesn't say goodbye properly or the way she wanted. Give her a hug and acknowledge. It's in your latest book. It's behind you, and she plays her husband, and she says something. Well, I don't care how you feel. Have a good day. And then you're like, oh, that's very good advice. Have a good day. I'm going to work
Yeah.
on that. Thank you.
I mean, it's so simple, and how obscure can the most obvious thing be? But there it is.
Yeah, and it's fascinating how we just don't notice. We don't hear the words people actually say, right? You're very, very good at that.
Yeah, just listening.
Yeah.
You know, when all this the clutter has been questioned, then it leaves listening and connection.
Yeah. Are you politically engaged at all?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
with the, in what way?
I watch the news, and in the mornings, Stephen will read my favorite op-eds to me
Hmm.
when they show up,
Right.
and or our favorite op-eds,
Hmm.
and then we'll watch evening news, and I love it.
Hmm.
I love it. It's it it gives me insight into myself, Calvin,
Uh-huh.
and it's and what's going on seems so radical, but how radical is my thinking when it comes to politics?
Hmm.
So, and how, you know, so and so is unreasonable.
Hmm.
And when I look at me, is that really true? How unreasonable am I?
Hmm.
And how passionate I become one way or the other is also fun to look at.
Hmm.
And oh yes, sweetheart, I just when I go to the polls, I want to be connected.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, connected, and and I love watching Steve and I both. I would say he's interested, and I really passionately love being aware of the races all over the United States and
Hmm.
also international politics.
Hmm.
But the races all over the state, and I'm always living. How can I help? How can I
Hmm.
support the thing closest to this 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 kindness? Close to my heart, not the thing that is the kinder to my world. But that's all. Anyone could say that. But I'm not looking at winning and losing. I'm voting my heart,
Hmm.
right mind. You know,
And
my own, and that's all I have access to.
right. Would you have you, has anyone in government like asked you to be an advisor or things like that?
Um, Individually, people um, talk with me,
Right.
and but to sit on a board and actually be an advisor, no. But I'm always available for chats.
That's great. I have a plan here. I have an agenda. So I have this dream of being like a conscious, like as a special advisor to the president on conscious nation building. I can't be president. I'm not an American citizen. I would never want to be a president anyway. But I'm working on getting Beth Davis, one of my friends, a very gifted woman, to be president. And so I would love to have you part of like the community of people that we can draw on to for ideas. Like, do we want to change something in the schools? Do we want to change something for, make the work available around the world, like for
Yeah.
adults, have other centers, like bring it out more.
Yes. So Calvin, you're obvious, and of course I would love to. That's what I'm. That's what I would absolutely be joining, and in conversations like that, and ideas. Hello and love to your wife,
Thank
and
you.
and it's really been fun chatting with you, Calvin. I see you.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye.